Okay, so we haven't done a chat in a while. I've been slacking on my YouTube channel, but I felt that there was a need and an importance for this video and this chat. I'm here with my sister-in-law, Doreen.
Hello.
We've done a chat before. She is a travel extraordinaire, a very experienced travel person, everything. So might be a little rusty. I haven't done a chat in a while, but hopefully it's like riding a bike and it just comes right back to me. So you can be my first test dummy for the chat. So
sure.
We can get into it. You have a pretty interesting, quarantine story experience. I think we all do.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of us who are watching, and maybe some who are watching abroad, know what it's like to be in a different country. But I think the majority of the people that are watching have quarantined here in the US, know what we've gone through here, whether that's their local authorities telling them what the policies and procedures are of not going out, wearing your mask, this or that. We hear from Donald Trump and all the crazy stuff that he spews. But for you, and the reason that we'll chat is because you have an experience that's a little bit different. You were practically trapped abroad. And it sounds, like I'm making it up.
Was trapped.
Yeah,
abroad.
you were
There's
trapped
no
abroad.
practically.
Yeah.
I was trapped.
Yeah, so you were trapped abroad. So basically, first off, how did you end up where you were? And you can tell people where you were.
Yeah, when it started.
Yeah, when it started.
Sure.
Yeah, so take everybody through the route of your quarantine trapped abroad experience.
Yeah. So I guess if people watch you regularly, I was on last summer and talked about how I live in China.
Yep.
So lived in China, was still living in China. I left China January 24th for just a regular Chinese New Year break. We have a week off in China. All schools we had 8 days off of school. So almost 2 weeks with the weekends for Chinese New Year. So I left. Our last day of school was a Thursday. I believe Thursday the 22nd or something like that.
Well, take us to January 24th in China. Was that was COVID being spoken about?
It was. So I don't live in Wuhan. I live in Chengdu. Or I lived in Chengdu. So
how far is that?
It's a decent ways away.
Okay.
Yeah, it's pretty far away. I think it's like 4 hours by plane. It's not close.
Okay.
So not anywhere near Wuhan. We hadn't had any cases of COVID in Chengdu yet. I think there were maybe 2 when I left on the 24th, but nowhere near. It wasn't massive yet. Even in Wuhan was bad, but it hadn't really spread anywhere else yet. So on the 24th, the 23rd, we have a big celebration at my school for Chinese New Year. The principal gets up, gives a little speech, and then mentions, because the parents and family are there, that they say, if you're planning to travel to Wuhan, you might have to go through special procedures when we come back to school in a week and a half. This is on a Monday. And that's it. That's all we heard. Be safe, be careful. If you can avoid going to Wuhan, please do. But if you do, you might have to quarantine when you get back. That was it. When we're leaving, everything's normal. I left on a Friday, the 24th. Everything was normal. My dad had actually called me, though, before I left and asked if I was okay. And then he told me, and he was in the States. So my dad called me and he's like, are you okay? And I was like, why? What's going on? And he tells me about COVID and all this stuff. And I was like, I literally have not heard anything about this. And then the next day our principal mentioned something, but that was it. We hadn't really heard anything about it.
Can I ask you, do you think you didn't hear anything about it because of the way China's media works? They may have been like holding it back from you guys? Because I feel like you guys all know George. If he were to hear about it here in America, I feel like China would have been the first to hear about it because it was actually happening there.
I think it's because there's not a lot of China news in English in China. It's in Chinese.
Okay.
So I don't.
So they could have been talking about it, and
They could have been, and I just didn't. I wasn't on that level. I pay more attention to international than Chinese news, even though I'm in China.
Yeah, that makes sense.
There isn't really access to it for us as foreigners in China. Also, China had been geared up for a really bad flu season since November. So we were already kind of on high, like, alert in that sense at my school. Just being like, wash your hands. Like, if you're sick, stay home. Like, I had a kid who was out for a week back in, like, December, and he couldn't come back until he had a negative flu test from the doctor. Like, I had kids out with the flu constantly. Like, the flu, it's a school. Like, flu's really bad. It was a really bad flu season even before the COVID blew up. So we were more on high alert for that. There were a couple cases of people being sick, and it could have been COVID, but we just also didn't know that it was COVID yet.
Yeah.
And we might have just been calling it the flu.
Yep.
So,
same thing here. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. We were talking about the flu. It could have been COVID. I'm not sure. So I leave on the 24th. I come home. I have like a suitcase because I'm only supposed to be. I came home because I'm in grad school. I was in grad school and I had to take a course in person. And so I came home. I was only supposed to be here for 5 days. I land on Friday. All Friday, it blew up in China on Saturday. I left Friday afternoon. I think I left Saturday morning. It blew up Saturday. I'm in the airport in Hong Kong on my layover watching it explode in China. Just like numbers are skyrocketing, everything's shutting down, quarantine, mask, you can't leave, like temperature checks, like just blowing up as I'm sitting in the Hong Kong airport. And I'm texting with school and my boss and my friends, and like, I'm now 12 hours behind everyone. And so like Saturday, like it's blowing up. I'm getting like, every morning I'm looking at my phone. There's like 200, 300 messages from school, work, friends, just like going crazy.
Yeah.
And I'm still planning to go back because my entire life was in China.
Yeah. All your stuff was in the airport. Yeah.
Sunday night. So I land Saturday night in New York City because my direct flight from Hong Kong and coming back. Land Saturday night. I'm here Saturday, like super anxious, like freaking out, like with my friend in New York City, and she's like, we'll get food, it'll be fine. Sunday night, I get a message from my boss saying that they're delaying us coming back from break. We're now pushing the start of school 2 weeks. We'll wait 2 weeks.
And when you got to America, nothing was really as serious as it was now. You were allowed to go to the airport. I came through the airport and I land, and I have a stamp I have a visa in my passport that says China. I land on the flight from Hong Kong because I flew Chengdu to Hong Kong, Hong Kong to JFK. I land on the flight from Hong Kong, and the woman goes, "Was Hong Kong your original leaving point?" I said, "No, I started in China." And she goes, "Wuhan?" And I go, "No." And she goes, "Okay." And that was it. There was this is January 25th now. It has just blown up. There were I think 6 confirmed cases on the West Coast at this point because I was tracking it on my phone through my Chinese communications apps that I use to work. So I was tracking it. There were confirmed cases here, and like I was on a flight where I was like one of 2 people who spoke English. Like everyone on my flight was out of Hong Kong and China, and it was bad in Hong Kong too, and there was no temperature checks. No one was wearing masks in the airport. No one was checking anything. Like I could have been like, I started in like Beijing, or like they wouldn't have known had I left from Wuhan. Yeah, I would have even wondered
check.
Like what they would have done.
Yeah.
If you said you were traveling from Wuhan, like they wouldn't have known what to do, but they would have just kept you in like captivity. I feel like.
I think so. They would have known. I said no. I mean, and I didn't. I came from Chengdu, but like there was no way for them to know that I was lying.
I just remember
I was shocked.
And I don't know when it was. I feel like it was later than January, but I remember seeing a picture from O'Hare Airport, and it was when like we didn't know anything about the virus, and it was like very like people were just so scared. And there was a picture of so many people crammed in at the international like section waiting to get in because they at like security, they wanted to do something to check people, but they didn't like have any protocols yet, so they were just all crammed in together.
And then also I had a friend who landed 2 weeks after me. She came like the 1st or 2nd week of February, and when she came through, she flew direct from Chengdu to San Francisco. And she said when she came through, they had people, they put you through a special line and like fill out paperwork, but like they weren't checking temperatures. A lot of people on her flight only spoke Chinese. The people doing the checking only spoke English, so like they didn't know what was going on. Like there was no organization for how to handle it.
Yeah.
But
sorry, continue.
No. Okay, so I land, we cancel school for 2 weeks. I immediately call Molly, and I was like, and I felt so bad because I think I called her at like 11 p.m. the night before Scotty was born. Like, knowing that she was going to have Scotty the next day. I would send her a text message and I was like, I'm so sorry. I know you're having a baby tomorrow, but like, I need to go somewhere. Like,
that was January 27th.
I'm not going back to school for like 2 weeks. So I stayed in upstate New York through the week with Henny and David, and then came here, and I was here for 3 weeks. And the whole time I was here, originally we were supposed to go back, I think, February 15th, and then that got pushed back to February 28th, and then that got pushed back to March 3rd, and then that got pushed back to March 23rd, and it just kept getting pushed back, and back. And then I stayed here until March 3rd. On March 3rd, and we moved to teaching remote. February 3rd, we went to online teaching, and I started teaching remote. So I was teaching remote way before anyone in the States. Everyone in the States was like, oh my God, I'm teaching remote now. It's terrible. I was like, I've been doing it for 6 weeks. Would you like me to tell you how?
Yeah.
By the time everything here went remote. So I'm teaching remote. I'm staying here with you guys. And I'm just watching it get worse. Like, I remember going to the gym every day, and I'm running on the treadmill and just watching it get worse and worse on CNN. And I was like, I saw this coming because I literally just came from China where this just happened.
Yeah.
And so March 3rd comes. They tell us we're going to start school March 23rd after spring break. We're going to have our spring break a little bit early. We'll take a week off, start back on March 23rd. So I was like, all right, I'm going to go back because I need to get my stuff regardless. Because
you were moving to a different school.
Right, because like I'm about to start, it's August now. I'd already gotten a job in January to start at a new school in Ukraine, which I start next week. So I was like, I'm going to go back and I'll just chill in China until I was like, it was starting to get bad here. So I was like, I'm just going to go there anyways because things are getting better there. My stuff's there. Like, if I have to quarantine, I'm in my house and my stuff. My friend was like, well, let's go via Morocco. On our way to China, let's stop in Morocco for 3 weeks. We can still work remotely. We'll stop in Morocco. We'll take our spring break there. And then she's like, I'll stay until we have to go back and you can go back to China and like start packing your apartment. And I was like, perfect. So we go to Morocco. I get to Morocco on March 3rd. We travel around until March 15th. On March 15th, we started in Tangier, Fez, Rabat, Casablanca, and then March 15th, we get to Marrakesh. We're on the train.
But prior to that, there was no protocol, like you could travel around freely?
There
Were
was
people
nothing
wearing masks?
yet, no.
Like,
No one was wearing
worried
masks.
about Corona?
No one was wearing a mask. No one was worried about Corona. No one was worried about anything. I think Morocco had like 2 cases or no cases when we landed. There was no protocol at all when we landed in the airport. Like, we went through Spain.
Yeah.
Nothing. Everything was fine. Like, I was in the Barcelona airport, like, just chilling in a lounge. Like, nothing. Get to Morocco, it's fine. We traveled around. We went on tours. We went to all of the Medinas. We saw everything. It was great for the first 2.5 weeks. I'm about to spend my last week in Morocco. I take the train from Casablanca to Marrakesh. There's no Wi-Fi or anything physically on the train for the 2 hours that I'm on the train. So I get on the train, everything's fine. I get to the train station in Marrakesh and I have a message with a picture from one of my coworkers that says, Morocco closes all its borders and locks down, shuts down air, land, sea, all of its borders today, March 15th, period, point blank, no warning. And so I'm standing in the train station, like we're literally about to go to our hotel, and we go to our hotel, we try to figure it out, and like that was it. Morocco locked down. No warning. No, I was supposed to fly out the following, like literally 5 days later, I was supposed to leave. I had a ticket to fly out on the 20th, which was Friday. They locked down. No planes, no nothing. No boats, no trains, locked down. Yeah. Then on Friday the 20th, they go into a state of emergency, meaning everything's closed, no rest, everything. The only thing open is pharmacies and grocery stores and hospitals. So how are you getting relayed this information? Like, because they speak a different language over there, I'm assuming, right? Social media, really. Oh, really? I joined several Facebook groups. I joined a Facebook group called U.S. Citizens Trapped in Morocco. Wow. And like we were just constantly like talking. What was that? How many people were in that group? Hundreds. Really? There were. Now I know the United States did several repatriation flights, but you had to pay for them. They were triple the cost. What does that mean? Like you can get back to the U.S. if you were trapped? It's a special flight organized by the government, but you had to like pay the U.S. government for it. It was a $1,500 flight. it flew through London, and you had to pay it yourself. Whereas, like...
Yeah, if you're traveling abroad, you might not necessarily have that.
And my one-way ticket to Morocco was $600. So basically, it's double the price on this, like, rescue flight.
Yeah.
So, and I wasn't planning to come back here. I was trying to get to China. So we're there, lockdown. The only place we can go is the grocery store. We can go once a week, and we have to bring like a special pass that was given to us by the local police that says who we are and that we have permission to go to the grocery store. And that's it. Other than that, we could not leave our apartment. And we moved out of a hotel. We got an Airbnb. I was with my friend. We were in a 2-bedroom Airbnb, and we were there. We were in this state of emergency lockdown where we could not leave for 104 days.
Yeah, that's insane. I remember when it was happening, and you would say you were just like walking on the roof. Texas,
we would go up to our roof and like run laps, like just circles around our roof. Yeah.
So, how often were you getting like information and news? Because I know here, you know, like Trump would do a press conference every day, I think it was, and whether his information was good or bad, Governor Pritzker would do it for Illinois, and we'd get news every day.
Yeah.
How often were you learning things in Morocco, and how often were things changing? Because it sounds like it didn't change too much.
So I was getting daily news, and and the state of emergency renewed every month. So the first one was from the 20th of March, the 20th of April, and then on April 18th, they extended. And they're still in a state of emergency. They just extended the latest one till September.
Oh, wow.
So state of emergency so on June 19th, things started to like open up a little bit, and they started to do zones, and you can move around, and like we could like go to the mall, you could go to Starbucks, and like, but we still like had to wear a mask. You have to wear a mask or you're like getting a ticket or jail time. Like movie theaters aren't open. There really is, you can go to stores, but that's about it. Like restaurants are open for takeout, but you can't sit down and eat at them. Like it's very limited. And then in July, they started special operations flights where you could fly to your country of origin. And at that point, because it was getting closer to when I had to be to work, I decided to come back here. Because also, I couldn't get to China because China closed its borders.
Yeah.
So Morocco closed its borders on the 15th. China closed its borders to all foreigners on the 28th of March and still hasn't opened them back up. So I had to move out of my apartment and get all my stuff shipped, well, as much stuff as I could get shipped because not everything could ship out of China, to Ukraine, and it's there waiting for me now. And I had to do that, like get my friends to help me do that. And that was a whole thing.
Yeah, I'm sure that's not easy.
Yeah.
What was like the biggest like conversation thing that people like that Americans were saying in that group? Was there any like common theme? Like, were you getting support from the U.S. government? I mean, like you said, there was the flight homes,
right?
But like,
no, the biggest thing was
scary?
Like the embassy wasn't answering questions. Like,
so the U.S. embassy in Morocco,
the U.S. embassy in Morocco, like it wasn't like the repatriation flights. Like you would find out about them, like.
Were these through regular airlines?
They were all through like British Airlines.
Okay.
I think I wasn't
like doing researching it too much, I guess.
Right, and it was hard to get onto them because like you'd get an email, like you had to register with the embassy in Morocco, and then they'd send you an email, but they were sending the emails out at like 4 a.m.
And Wi-Fi's probably suspect over there too.
It was real slow, and then like they would fill up real fast, and so like if you didn't get on, it was like, oh well. Maybe there'll be one next week, maybe they won't, or like you'd find out about one and then you wouldn't, and like the timing of them was real weird. But like I'm glad that I waited because even though I did end up coming back to the States, I paid like $700 for my ticket versus like if I had taken like the cheapest repatriation flight was $12. And they didn't always go to where you needed to go. Sometimes they went to Dulles, sometimes they went to JFK, sometimes they went to Miami. Sorry. They didn't always go to like the same, like where you needed to go. And then you had to get yourself wherever you were going.
Right.
So it was crazy. Yeah, it was real crazy. Whereas like I just took a direct, and they all had layovers in Europe. I just took, like one of the repatriation flights was just from Morocco to London. And then it was like, and you have to figure out how to get yourself to America from there. And it was like, that's when things were blowing up in London.
Yeah.
And so it was like, well, that's not helpful.
I'm surprised to hear that there was even like some like that America helped in that sense to try and get people home, you know, and it wasn't just like you're shit out of luck type of deal.
Yeah.
What how well did people like abide to like the quarantine rules in Morocco compared to, I mean, you have the benefit of seeing what it's like here,
Right.
and internationally. Is there similarities? Is there differences? Is one place worse? Is one place better? Because I don't know the numbers of like places in Europe. Is Morocco in Europe?
No, it's in Africa.
Okay,
Northern Africa.
yeah. See how much I know.
It's okay.
I don't know what their cases are like there. But like, what was the biggest sense did you get? Were people like abiding by it when you went out in public?
During the lockdown, it was really good. Like their numbers were really low. At one point, I think they were down to like 100 active cases in the entire country.
Oh wow,
really good. Since I've gotten back here, so I came back I flew out January 23rd. I left Morocco. Since I've gotten here, I checked it the other day and they were up to like 9,000 active cases. Like it's blowing up again. And I think it's because like people don't want to wear masks. They're going out. They also just had like a big holiday. Eid just happened. And so like in those kinds of situations, I also noticed like later because so towards the end, like in June and July, things got really like the government wasn't communicating as much. So like first they said that foreigners could leave, but they could only leave if they were going to their home country. But then they're like like in the beginning of August, they were like, okay, you can just go wherever you want now. And then like, so it's just getting really like just not clear information. And I think people also like they were de-zoned. So if you were in a zone 1, that meant that the virus wasn't as bad in your area and you could move around and like go to different parts of the country. But if you were in a zone 2, you couldn't leave you could move around within your zone, but you couldn't leave your zone.
So you were in a zone 2?
I was in a zone 2, yeah.
Okay.
I was in Marrakesh, which is a zone 2, but like Casablanca was a zone 1. But like Casablanca had more cases than Marrakesh was. So like it wasn't like, and then they were like, oh, well, look at it every 10 days and like update it. But then they weren't doing that. So like, I think people got tired of it and started like going out and like not wearing masks and meetings in groups and not
What's
following.
like the economic like structure there? Like, is it wealthy? Is it middle class? Are there poor people?
It's a developing nation.
Okay.
And 11% of their like economic growth is tourism based.
Okay.
And they're not getting any of that right now.
No.
Because also like the EU opened all of its borders to other EU countries and safe countries on the green list on July 1st. And Morocco originally was on the list, but Morocco didn't want to open their borders. So then they took them off the list. And like one of the groups I was in was called US or Moroccan News for Foreigners was another one of the Facebook groups I joined, and they did like a kind of like a briefing every day of like just what was happening in the news, and it was always talking about like how hurt the tourism industry is.
I'm sure.
And it's just like a bunch of hotels are closing, and it's really bad, and like restaurant business is down, and just it's not like their economy's taking a big hit. And like I think people just got tired of it, and it's just like fatigued by like not getting answers, not getting what they need, and like now they're going out, but now there's more cases again, and like the cases are getting worse.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like you see that here, people are desperate to get back to work because they need money and this and that. But I feel like things are a little bit more sustainable here, just because I don't know whether there's more money or whatnot, and we don't have to rely on tourism, I guess, as much as other countries.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'd be curious to see, who was like the leadership team? Like, who do you think was making decisions on people going back to work? And like, was there anybody that was like in charge, like that, was like a figurehead for Morocco? Or that?
I mean, they have a king. But I don't know enough about how the government works. I don't know if like he has the say so.
Yeah.
But I do know that like he's kind of like in favor of like keeping the quarantine and trying to keep people safe and stuff like that. But I think again, like it's the kind of thing like they don't know what's the best. Like yes, they need to help. On one hand, they need to like raise their economy and people need to work. But on the other hand, like
they need to stay safe.
They need to stay safe, and like they don't necessarily have the like medical infrastructure to support massive. I mean, we barely have it here for the numbers that we have, and like So
did you feel, that's a good point. I mean, like, we were worried about hospitals overflowing here, and not having enough masks and stuff like that. Was it hard to find sanitizer and face masks and all that stuff that we have here, that like toilet paper that people are going crazy about?
There was never any, like, so we would, when we
Like,
first...
what was the biggest thing that people were like running out to get in Morocco? Is there anything?
No, that never happened. Like, there was never a shortage of anything. The only time we ever stocked up was right before, oh my gosh, what's the name of the holiday? It's the big Muslim holiday that just happened in June, or it ended in June. Oh, what was it? But like, we were like, oh, they're not going to sell alcohol. We better make sure we stock up on this. But not because they were going to run out, but because like a holiday was coming, and like it's their big holiday. Oh, Eid is the one, I can't remember what it's called.
And did they not celebrate it? Or like, or people were still
they
out?
They did, but they didn't celebrate it the way they had to celebrate it like in their houses, whereas usually they go out and celebrate it together.
Yeah, of course.
It's the one where they fast all day and then eat at night, and I can't remember what it's called, and I'm sure someone will.
Oh, someone 100% will, but you're asking me, and I didn't even know where Morocco
I'm just completely blanking on it, and I've talked about it so much, and I was there for it. I can't remember what it's
It'll
called.
Come to you eventually.
I know. I'm going to wake up at like 1 a.m. and be like,
no, it'll come back in like while we're talking. Yeah. So there was no real fear of getting masks or sanitizer.
I never had a fear. Like, me and my friend never had a fear of getting masks because both of us had stocked up here before we left, because our boss asked us to bring back PPE because we didn't have any for school.
Your boss in China?
Yeah. So our principal in China was like, oh, if you can get masks, bring them back with you because we need them when we reopen school. Mm-hmm. So we didn't have to buy any in Morocco because we had brought them with us.
And what was the perception of, like, Americans in Morocco? And I know you traveled prior to when you got to Marrakesh, you said?
Yeah.
Was it well received? Well, like, because I know, and this is different from Morocco, but like, I knew you were teaching in China, and like, was there almost like oh, she was in China type of deal that you ever got, like when you told people?
Tell anyone we were from China. There was one place we stayed where my friend did, and I was just like, I wouldn't say that if I was.
Yeah,
you.
I mean, like,
I deliberately did not tell people that they were like, when people were like, oh, where are you coming from? I'd be like, oh, the States, which was true. I was technically coming from here. I'd been here for 3 weeks, or 4 or 5 weeks. I don't even remember. But I did not tell any people that we met or ran into, like tour guides or like hotel people, that I lived in China, because I hadn't been there since January, and it was March.
Yeah.
So I was like, they don't need to know. Like, if I had it, like, I would have known already. Like, they don't need to know that I was in China, because I wasn't in Wuhan. I wasn't even in Chengdu when it was bad. So I was like, I'm just not going to tell anyone where I came from.
And what was the news you were hearing from a lot of your friends and like faculty that were still in China? Like, what were their protocols?
A lot of people did not say. For the ones who did stay, it was very similar to what we were under for when we were on lockdown. Like, not allowed to leave, like, had to wear a mask, like, temperature checks, like, all that stuff. Like, China locked down pretty much real hard like that too. Yeah,
I remember when our cases were rising, and I feel like they still are, but it's just not even spoken about in the news anymore.
Yeah.
But I remember when in Wuhan, and I don't even know when this was, and I feel like you were probably still in Morocco, but they like confirmed that there were no more cases, and they had all like the hospital workers like taking their mask off.
Yeah, there's no cases in Wuhan right now.
Which is wild, because I just I don't know if they were lying or if that's really the case, you know, like, and I guess it just goes to the news there, and like how much they skew it one way or not. Like,
well, my school that I work for, they went back to in-person classes on May 15th.
Wow. And have you gotten any news from people on how it's been?
It was, I know how it is because I had to teach via Zoom.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I would Zoom in and teach my kids, and like, it was like they had desks, like not similar in size to what we're at right now, and it was but usually they sat 2, and each kid had their own desk. Like, they weren't allowed, like, and the desks were all, like, spaced away from each other, like, 3 feet. And then each kid had, like, all their supplies on their desk, and they stayed at their desk all day. All, like, they got to leave to go to lunch. They could go outside for recess, but, like, each class had a designated area where they could play. They had to wear masks all day. They weren't allowed to use the air conditioning, but they opened the windows to get air circulating. Like, there was a lot of regulations.
Yeah.
And this isn't elementary. This is first graders.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is tough to have those kids. I mean, having 2 daughters.
They would want to, like, come up to the camera and, like, show me their work.
Yeah.
They're like, look what I did. And I was like, you're supposed to be in your seat.
Aye. So going back to Morocco and being trapped for, how long did you say? It was 100 and something days?
I was in lockdown where I could not leave for, like, leisure. Like, I couldn't even go outside and take a walk.
Yeah, that's, so, like, what did you do to pass time? I know, like, people have learned your big Harry Potter.
I was working.
Okay.
I was still working. We didn't get out of school. We didn't stop school. School ended June 19th, so I was still working.
Okay.
So I would have to do, like, video classes and video lessons, and, like, I was online teaching all my kids distance, and, like, so I was still working, and then I was also still in grad school, so I was doing that until May.
Yeah, yeah.
And then I took a nap every day. Usually would have, like, I had a lot of anxiety. That was a lot of fun. A lot of, like, being like, I'm going insane. I did a lot of cooking and baking. I made, like, bagels and pretzels and, like, did a lot of cooking. And read a lot. Did a lot of reading. But, I mean, grad school took up a lot of time, and work took up a lot of time. The hardest part was grad school ended, like, May 7th, or that first week of May was my last week of grad school. So there was a big chunk of time, like, that was my afternoons. Like, I would work in the morning and then do grad school in the afternoon. So now I had to find something to fill my afternoons. And so I would, like, read or, like, just internet. Like,
did you ever get worried or, like, think at any point, like, what the fuck? Like, I don't know if I'll ever get out of here.
Yes,
like, I don't know what's going
a lot.
on.
Yeah.
Like,
oh, yeah.
Because I feel like when you travel, like, I mean, like, you've been away from your family a while. So, I mean, I'm sure at some point.
It wasn't even so much. It's not even so much that, like, I'm away from my family. Because, like, I think I talked to my brother Max more when I was in Morocco than I have, like, ever being abroad. He would call me once a week. I talked to my dad more. I talked to you guys, you and Molly, and, like, I feel like I talked to my family more being trapped in Morocco than I ever did. It was more of just, like, I haven't been in my own home since January 24th. Yeah. I've been in this weird limbo nomadic phase that I do not enjoy.
Yeah.
I like traveling, but I'm tap out at 3 weeks, and I'm going on 7 months.
Yeah, so I mean, like, I feel like you would have to keep up with so much of, like, the like emergency protocols and everything that was going, like. Yeah,
that was a big part of my time, was, like, just following the news and checking up on, like, the news here, Morocco, China.
Yeah, like, what?
And then Ukraine, because that's where I'm going.
Yeah, that's so, like, what was the biggest thing you took away from anything you've learned, like, in traveling protocols, or, like, getting your ducks in a line to, like, make sure you're ready to travel and be ready to go? Like, is there anything you learned, or just, like...
I think that, like, one thing is just, like...
Because, I mean, you can't expect that to happen, but, like...
having important documents on you. Because, like, I didn't have, like, my computer or my camera or, like, those things. Like, I didn't bring them with me. And, like, usually I travel... Like, my computer is what... Like, I did have my computer. I got a new computer, so that's fine. Mm-hmm. So not my computer, but, like, my camera, my important documents. Like, all I had with me was my passport. Like, I need so many documents for visas and stuff, and I left them all there. Luckily, I was able to get them mailed to Ukraine, and, like, that was fine. But, like, being able to, like, I don't know, just... I'm traveled out, like I was telling, like, I'm not planning to travel at all for the next year. Like, I just can't. I'm, like, not, like, I feel like once I'm in my home, I'm going to be like, I can't leave for fear that I'll never be able to come back again.
Yeah.
Like, there's definitely some serious triggers that I think I'm going to find that I have over the next year that I'm going to be like, okay, so now I need to figure out what to do here. I think the biggest thing I took away, though, is, like, when you leave your house to go on a trip, make sure it's in some like organized. Because I know for a fact my apartment when I left was a complete disaster because I was like, oh, I'll be back and I'll like start packing it and deal with it later. And like, I'm like, no, I don't want, like, I can't do that ever again. Like, I just had so much stuff that I needed to get rid of and I don't know what was there. And like, I don't like that, like not knowing what I do and do not have. And also like, if it's really, really important to you, like keep it on you.
Yeah. I mean, I think this was so extreme. Like, I mean, I've spoken to people at work and like, it happened, everything happened so abruptly that like, I think we were in work on a Monday. And then like it was either like maybe we were in on Tuesday and we weren't allowed to go back on Wednesday.
Yeah.
And then finally they let us go back to the office like months later. And some people were like, I had like food on my desk and coffee on my it's like you can't expect to like come home on a break and then just never be allowed to go back to your house. Like what happened with like rents? I mean, like I know like rent and like landlords are a huge thing people are dealing with here now because one, they can't pay their rent, and two, like landlords aren't giving them a break. Like how I know your school paid for a lot of your schooling in China, and I don't know, but you had the Airbnb in Morocco.
Yeah.
How is communication with landlords in China and getting stuff shipped, and then in Morocco dealing with the Airbnb? Like, do they have leniency or were they still like, you gotta pay?
Yeah, I was still getting paid. Like, I was still working, so I still got paid. I still got all my money. Like, I was very thankful for that. Like, this happened to me and my job completely changed. And I think I distance taught for like 20 weeks.
Yeah.
A long time.
Yeah, but the Morocco landlord doesn't know you're still getting paid. I mean, ultimately, like
true.
You got stuck there.
Yeah.
Was he just like, sorry, you guys just keep paying your Airbnb fee?
She was a host, and so our host was actually very, very nice. And she did give us a discount. Because we did such long, and we rebooked like every 3 weeks originally, and then towards the end we started doing week to week. But she gave us a discount, and she was very, very helpful, very awesome. Like, she was great. But no, she did definitely give us like a discount and she knew we couldn't leave, and like she would update us on information too when it would change for tourists, and like be like, oh, just so you know.
She was probably telling you that you were locked down for those 104 days so she can keep having someone pay for her Airbnb.
I don't know. But no, she was super nice and she was really great. In China, I don't really know because I don't deal with my landlord.
Okay.
My school does, but also I think they do our leases a year in advance. So like, it's not like in the States where you pay month to month. I think it's like you pay year to year. Yeah. So like they had already paid it for the year.
And what was the news you were getting out of like America while you were in Morocco? I mean, obviously it's a mess.
Yeah.
But what were you hearing? Was it just from family and friends telling you like what's going on?
It was, so one of the things that I follow, so I use like the communication app I used for China was called WeChat, and they would do like updates, and they would have like they had like a global section and would like say how it was doing in the States, and then Bing actually did a thing that if you just typed in like COVID cases or something, they like you could look up. I could find the country, and then for the U.S. I could go state.
Oh, wow.
And then within the state I could do the county. So like sometimes it'd be like Lake County because it's or I'd be like Monroe County, Ontario County, like my Miami-Dade County, and I was like looking at the counties where I knew I had family living to see how the cases were in like your specific areas. And so that's what I was doing to figure out cases. Other than that, Instagram. Like I follow like Huffington Post and like NPR, Al Jazeera, like those kind of like news outposts, and just see what they were saying about the cases and stuff.
So prior to coming back to the States, were you abroad when a lot of like the Black Lives Matter movements and like social unrest was happening?
Yeah, I was
and stuff
in Morocco,
like that?
so
what was that like? And was there like, were they sharing the same sentiment there? Were there riots? Were there stuff going on? What was that experience like?
So there wasn't, I mean, there is a decent sized Black population Morocco's very, like, multicultural, but it's also, like, it's a Muslim country. Like, that's what it's officially. It's a Muslim country.
Mm-hmm.
So everyone there is brown.
Mm-hmm.
But they also have, like, some French people, some Spanish people.
Do
like,
women, like, cover up?
Some do,
Okay.
some don't. It's, it depends, because there's, like, different, like, not everyone's Muslim.
Mm-hmm.
And some people who are choose not to wear a hijab. So it's choice. There wasn't any, there was no rioting because of that. Like, there's no BLM related rioting.
Because of COVID, or because of...
So originally when the lockdown first happened, there were a couple of riots of like young people like fighting against the lockdown, but that got shut down. And so because that happened, though, there was already a military presence in the streets by the time the BLM stuff started coming up in, what was that, early June, Memorial Day weekend was when George Floyd died.
Okay.
So they were already in the streets for that. Like, we would walk to the grocery store and we'd see, like, military troops, like, in the streets, like, enforcing the lockdown and people wearing masks. Like, that's how they got people to do it. They brought in the army for that. There were a couple, like, not riots, but, like, protests. But it was, like, there's a race of people called Berber who are, they, like, had one and were like, oh, we should be treated fairly, too. Like, look what's happening in the States. But there wasn't really, like, it was in the news there, like, to talk about what was happening in the States, but it wasn't like how in London they had marches and stuff. Like, that didn't happen in Morocco. At least not where I was.
So you finally get clearance that you can return home. What was it like traveling back to the States? Because I know ultimately you were going, I mean, you're going to leave tomorrow to go to Ukraine.
Yeah.
You couldn't go directly to Ukraine, right? I remember you saying you had to, like...
Originally,
who was it that required you to go back to U.S. and quarantine for 14 days?
No.
Was it the U.S.?
So what happened was, originally, I actually had bought the ticket and everything, was going to fly from Casablanca to Turkey, Istanbul, and then Istanbul to Kyiv.
Okay.
And then the Moroccan government made a policy. So the flights that they opened, at the time when I left, it was one airline, Royal Air Maroc, which is the official airline of the Moroccan government. They were the only airline that was given clearance to leave. And then the Moroccan government made a policy that said tourists can leave, but only to go to their country of residence. Okay. And then the only people who can come into Morocco are Moroccans and people who have residency in Morocco. And then, so they said you can leave, but you can only go to your country of residency. And so I was following those Facebook groups, and the flights started, July 15th was when the flight started.
My birthday.
Yeah. So the flight started then. And so they're in those Facebook groups, and people would update on their experience, like trying to get out. And a couple had updated on the 15th saying they were going to Turkey as tourists, U.S. citizens going to Turkey, got to the airport, were not allowed to board their flight because they didn't have residency in Turkey. Wow. On the exact same flight I was going to take in like 6 days or 7 weeks. So then they had to return to... So they stayed in Morocco and ended up just going to JFK instead. Oh, okay. Ended up just going to the States because that's where they were from. Yeah, So when I read that, I went out and I went to 3 different travel agencies. They all told me the same thing, that I was like, I have a U.S. passport. I'm trying to fly to Turkey and then to Ukraine. And they were like, nope, you can only fly to the country that your passport's from unless you have a residency card.
And this was a mandate from the Moroccan government?
Yeah, the Moroccan, the country, like Turkey's like, yeah, Americans can come here. It's totally fine. And like Ukraine's like, sure, Americans can come. It's fine. Like you just have to like make sure you're not. Like,
why would Morocco require that you go back to?
Now this is just my personal theory from what I observed is these flights are called called a special operation. I think that the reason why Morocco did that in the beginning, because my friend who I was with, because I left her there, she just flew to Albania, no problem, through Rome. I think when I did it, because I did it right when it opened up, I think they're trying to be like, see, we're not letting tourists in, we're only letting tourists go home. So that's why we don't have to like open our borders to the rest of the EU. because Morocco's a big destination for EU countries to travel to, especially in the summer now. And so the EU is kind of trying to pressure Morocco to like open their borders up, especially Spain was trying to pressure Morocco to open their borders up to tourism. So my theory is that Morocco was like, oh, no, we're not opening to tourism. We're just letting tourists go home. And so to prove that, they were like only letting people go to their country of residency.
Yeah, it sounds weird because at the end of the day, like, why do they care where you go? You know, like you're getting out of their country.
Yeah, like I'm leaving. Why do you care where I'm going?
So you're almost saying if your theory is if they were allowing people to go to other countries, then those other countries would be like, well, you're letting people come to our countries. Why
won't you let us go to yours? Yeah, exactly. That's my theory. I don't know if that's why. But again, that was the thing that like the government made that policy but didn't tell anyone why.
Yeah. It's weird how that works because I mean, like at the end of the day, I'd be curious to find out what the reason behind that is.
Yeah.
And like, I don't know. So you get back to the States.
Yes.
And you have to quarantine for 14 days.
I didn't have to quarantine.
Oh, you didn't?
No, I didn't have to quarantine.
But so why couldn't you needed your visa to go?
I needed my work visa. So when I heard that policy that I couldn't go, because originally my school was like, oh yeah, just come here. We'll get you your work visa when you come here, when I was going to go straight from Morocco.
Yeah.
When I told them that I had to come to the States because Morocco wasn't going to let me go to Ukraine, they were like, okay, stay long enough to get your work visa.
Okay.
So my school is the one who told me to stay until I got the work visa.
So if you went straight from Morocco, you wouldn't have had your work visa?
Right. And
could you still teach without your work visa?
I would have gotten it while I was there.
Oh, okay.
But to get the work visa while I am there, though, so I would have gone from Morocco to Ukraine, and then they would have started the visa process, which I did while I was here. It takes about 3 weeks, and then I would have had to gone on.
It takes about 3 weeks, but didn't you get it in one day?
We can talk about that too. And then once you do all your paperwork and stuff, how I went to the embassy here, I would have done that, but I would have had to do a visa run to another country. Because it's the same rule in every country I've been to. You can't get a long-term visa for the country while you're in the country. So like, even if I knew people in Korea who came to Korea without work visas and then had to do like a visa run to Japan to get their Korean work visa. So I would have been in Ukraine, gotten the stuff, gotten everything, and then had to go to another country. And like, I'm glad I didn't have to do that because with how crazy things, like with cases are building up again, like everywhere, like I don't want to get trapped again outside of my home.
Yeah.
So I'm like, at this point, I have
Where do you consider your home? I mean, your home now, you would consider Ukraine?
Yeah.
Okay.
When I get there.
That's what I'm saying. You haven't even been there yet.
I know.
And you still is all your stuff still in China?
So when I was shipping my stuff out of China, I was able to ship about 30% of my stuff. A lot of my stuff is in I shipped about 30% of it. I got rid of about 50%. The rest of it is there waiting for me.
So will you ever go back to China?
I will. I'm planning. Okay. I'm hoping that they'll let tourists back in next summer and I can go and get it next summer.
So, and I showed this to you a while ago, I think, but there was a tweet that I saw that was like, it's crazy that like Americans can't travel anywhere. Do you remember the tweet I showed you a while ago?
Yeah. And I was like, that's not true.
Yeah. So Americans can travel.
There's places we can travel. It's just not. I mean, America used to have the third strongest passport in the world, and right now we don't. We're banned from everywhere. Meaning we didn't have to get visas. Like, we could just go on our passport.
Oh, okay. So, and explain to me, like, what's the difference between a passport and a visa?
So, a visa, you have to, like, fill out paperwork, go to the embassy, like, get all this stuff. When you're just going on your passport, you just buy the ticket and you just go and they just stamp it.
Yeah, so I'm saying, when do you need a visa versus when do you need a passport?
It depends on the country. It depends on the country and it depends on the situation. So, like, I could go to Ukraine as a tourist, but I could only stay for, like, however long. Like, I didn't have to get a visa to go to Morocco. Okay. I could go to Morocco under normal circumstances, not COVID. You can go, you can stay for 90 days, sorry. You can go, you can stay for 90 days and then you have to leave.
So someone like me who would be just traveling on vacation, a passport is just totally fine. But if you're staying for an extended amount of time, you need the visa.
Yeah. Yeah.
It sounds like there's just so many different policies and procedures.
It is, because it's also different country to country. So, like, you can't just go to China. You have to get a tourist visa.
Oh, so my passport wouldn't just work to China?
No, you'd have to get a tourist visa.
Really?
Yeah.
Oy. So what's the biggest thing you learned, or like that? Did you gain anything? Did you like have a new perspective on anything being trapped over there? You know, like, do you appreciate anything more? Is there anything different? Because I mean, we're all trapped in quarantine, but like it's different to be trapped in not your home country, like,
or not your home.
Yeah, or not your home.
I think, I mean, I was always kind of a homebody. I think it's going to be worse now. I'm going to give myself the 2020-2021 school year to, like, not travel, not do anything. But then it might, like, I'm going to, like, try to force myself to travel more because I do want to travel. I think, so I know, like, different people. I did, like, my friend who I was with, like, this whole thing, she was like, oh, I never want to go back to America. And I was kind of like,
oh, really?
Yeah. She's like,
what was it about? Done. Why?
She just, like, the way, like people being like, I don't have to wear a mask. My body, my choice. Like, open up TJ Maxx. It's all right. Like, I have a right to a haircut. Like, all that nonsense. She's like, I can't handle that.
But you said, I mean, that there was that same sentiment a little bit in Morocco, you said, right? Because the cases started going back up.
But not until, like, recently.
Okay.
Whereas, like, you know, it was happening in, like, April and May here. Whereas, like, me, it kind of, like, I don't know, I think I'm getting kind of brought into focus the fact that, like, I might be getting tired of living abroad. Like,
really?
I might be getting closer to wanting to... Not right away. Like, I'll probably stay at my new school for, like, 4 years. But I don't know if it's something that's, like... It used to be people... It was more of, like, are you going to come back? Not when. And now it's becoming more of, like, a when, I think. So that, I like being closer to my family. I didn't like not having an anchor.
Yeah.
I don't know if that'll change when I get to Ukraine and I have a home again. But I didn't like being adrift. Like, literally being adrift. I just did not enjoy it.
I feel like it's just like, it could be just so tiring and taxing, like, to just keep up with, you know, what's happening. I mean, like, it's hard to do that here.
Yeah.
If you're from America, you know, and if you're living somewhere else, I can't imagine what that's like, keeping up, you know, with policies and procedures in a different language, and then like having to go out to the grocery store and communicate with someone in a different language. Like, was that hard, like, speaking the language, like, and you got a mask on too, so it's like,
it was really hard.
You can't maybe hear what they're saying. Like, was that what was that like? It
was really hard. And then, like, it was things like we were staying in an Airbnb, so it's like you don't want to, like we didn't have all the dishes. Like, we had a pot, we had a pan, but, like, you don't want to buy more because it's not... We didn't know how long we were going to be there. It wasn't our house. Like, and
there's no, like, Amazon, right? You can't get things, like, delivered to your store.
There was, but we didn't know how to use it. We didn't have phones. We didn't, like, it just wasn't... I don't know. It was...
It's not ideal.
It's not ideal. Yeah. It was not ideal. It was not ideal at all.
Were you ever in any fear? Was there still crime, or like, I picture being abroad, and the first thing I think of is like Liam Nielsen or whatever his name is, and it's like you get in an Uber from your airport and someone's following you. Like, is there any fear of crime or anything, or is it almost like COVID stopped all of that like it did here?
Well, there was a curfew. You had to be in your house by 6 p.m. and the sun didn't go down until 8, so we were never out in the night because we weren't allowed, like, 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. you weren't allowed to be outside. There was a curfew for the whole country. So, like, we weren't allowed to be out. So, like, we wouldn't go out. And then it got to the point, like, it's the desert. So when we would go grocery shopping, we had to go around like between 8 and 9 a.m. because we had to walk there.
Well, what's the weather like?
Right now it's in the hundreds. Like, when I left, it was like 105 degrees the day I left. So, like, it's really hot. And so we didn't want to you don't want to walk to the grocery store, not a cloud in the sky, and it's 110 degrees.
Yeah, no.
You're just pouring sweat. So, and you're wearing a mask.
Yeah,
So like,
yeah.
so we really only went out in like the mornings. We weren't out. So like there might have been crime, but I didn't experience it because I was never outside.
How was the person that you quarantined with? Was it fine? Because I know
I was fine. Yeah, my friend Ash and I, we were good together. It worked. It was good. We did also have our own rooms though, so we could go and be like, I need alone time.
Yeah.
Like go and like.
Yeah, I mean it's
be
tough
alone.
to get. I mean, like you travel with someone and you not expect to like. I'm sure when you started the trip, it was like, oh, we'll go on a 3-week little trip, go home, and then it turns into like a however long month thing.
Yeah.
So
we had traveled together. We went on Christmas break together, which was about 3 weeks, and then we also went on an October break together, which was a week. So we had traveled together before, so we knew that we were okay. But yeah, it was. Luckily, yeah, we were great together. But yeah, you didn't know I was getting a roommate.
Did you feel like there was support from the U.S. government, or did you even need any at any point to like get in touch?
I
with
didn't
anything?
really reach out.
Okay.
So I don't know. I will say my experience, like.
Did you get any perceptions from people prior to getting stuck on just like what the overall like sentiment was of Donald Trump in America? Like, did you have any conversations with people that are just like, oh,
everyone
it's a
thinks
shit
he's
show?
an idiot.
Yeah, okay. I mean, so that everyone knows it.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Oh, yeah.
good
Everyone
to know.
thinks he's an idiot. Yeah. Before, when we were traveling around, like, there was one place we stayed. Because, like, there's, like, you don't always, like, you say, it's almost like every place is almost like a bed and breakfast. So, like, you're staying in someone's house, and they'll come, and, like, there was one place we stayed ran by this woman, and it's called a riad, and it was, like, she was really sweet, and she would come and, like, she'd be like, oh, I'm making tea, do you want to come have some? And, like, we had tea with her, and, like, we were talking with her and her friends, and they were just like, oh, he's an idiot. Like, no one thinks he's a smart man outside of the United States.
Okay, good. Yeah, I mean, is there anything else that you want? I feel like I thought it would be interesting to hear your story.
Yeah.
Because like I said, I know what my quarantine experience is like here. I feel like we have, some freedom to go out and about. But in the beginning, I think people just really didn't know what was happening. So like we were stuck inside a little bit more because we were like, stores weren't open.
Yeah.
But now I feel like across the board hearing your story, it sounds like everything's pretty similar in like where stores are opening back up, but there's still some safety protocols. But I don't know I don't know. I just feel like
I think so like the lockdown was a lot longer in Morocco than it was here, at least from what I saw via the news. I will say when I do go out like grocery shopping here, like everything is like, there's some stores that take it really seriously. Like I was at Trader Joe's today and like someone is standing outside like, and they're like telling you when you come in, when you can't. So there's only a certain number of people inside the store at a time. There's like spaced out places where you land. Like everyone's really good about like spacing out when they're standing in lines and like in general. Whereas like, but then I wasn't like in Walmart and there was like a ton of people. So like I think different stores are taking it more seriously than some stores.
But like what you said earlier, it's interesting to me that like a lot of these countries depend on tourism. So it's like, there were a lot of cases in Italy and I think Spain had a lot of cases too, and it's almost just like they need tourists coming in spending money, so they almost like sacrifice, people coming in who could potentially have, more cases. Then the numbers rise. So it's almost like, these other countries are more susceptible to cases rising because they are letting more people in and stuff like that.
But I don't think, I know here, like I see, like I'll go on, like I saw like people at like weddings, like full blown, like I saw at least 3 full blown weddings on social media this weekend in the States. of people that I know on Instagram and stuff, like showing pictures, and like not a single person at the reception. They had a reception, they had a full church, and no one's wearing a mask.
Yeah, I wonder
and
what
it's like, just because you know those people doesn't mean they're not carriers or they don't have it. Like
I wonder what the like people think abroad of like if conspiracies are a thing, if they think hoax is a thing, because it's like I doubt their media is as like, you know, corrupt certain ways or have a president who says this is a hoax and stuff like that. Like I wonder what people will think there. Does everybody think it's real? And then at a certain point they're like, it's real, but I got to get back to work and do my shit. Or if there's still some like non-believers there, non-maskers and all that shit.
Yeah. I don't know. But
that's what we need you to know.
I know. Well, so like
I'm just kidding.
I guess
I would just be curious because I feel like there'd be more conspiracy, like hoax. This is not a real thing here because it's more widespreadly talked about than maybe it is in another country.
Yeah.
I doubt there's like a Tucker Carlson in Morocco, like saying that this is a hoax.
I don't know. Like, I think it's kind of similar in here in the sense that people are like, oh, we're friends, so I know you don't have it, so you can come over to my house. Because I do know that there were, like, our neighbors in next to our Airbnb in our apartment, like, were the worst. They were so loud, and they would have, like, parties on the weekends.
With, like, people coming over?
With, like, people, like, and I'm like, they're not there all the time. Like, we could see under their balcony, and there'd be, like, 8, 9 people on their balcony. And I'm like, you don't all live in that apartment. Where are you coming from? And then, like, my friend, like, made friends with somebody, and I was talking to him, and he was like, oh, yeah, I went to the beach. And I was like, did he wear a mask?
I know.
And he was like, you don't have to wear a mask. It's not real. And I was like, what?
But was he Moroccan or was he
Moroccan?
Oh, he was.
Yeah.
Oh, so yeah. I mean, I'd be curious to know, like, if it's maybe just like an education thing, or like if it's just personal opinion, or like why someone would think that it isn't real, and what the majority of people would think in a different country.
I think it's also some of that thing of just like, oh, they say all these people are getting it, but I don't know anyone who has it. Yeah. But then there's so many people. Exactly. So like if it's not directly affecting them, they don't think it's real.
Yeah. Yeah. It's tough. It's a tough thing because certain people are gonna feel strongly one way, and other people are gonna feel strongly the other way. And
I think what I've noticed here, which is also very similar to Rockwood, it seems like certain areas take it more seriously than like other places. So like
the more educated states, like Florida's a bunch of dummies, Georgia's a bunch of dummies. Well, it's all like who's in charge of those states.
Who's in charge of those states.
You've got a dumbass governor in Florida and Georgia and like Alabama and all these like just conservative people. Like they're gonna tell everyone in their state that it's fake, or you can go out and do this and that, and people are gonna listen to that. And
what you didn't see in Morocco, because I was at a Starbucks and I saw this happen, whereas like someone tried to come in. Also, they took our temperature before you walked into. Once they opened things back up, you go into any store, they physically took your temperature. Like they had the laser ones that like they would do the arm and take your temperature, and you had that. They watched you like sanitize your hands before you could go in.
Nice.
And they would give you a mask if you didn't have one. And no one got assaulted by someone not wanting to wear a mask. Like that's what I don't understand that happens here. Is the fact
insulted
that,
or assaulted?
Assaulted. Like someone's like, you have to wear a mask, and the person being told to wear a mask gets so mad they attack the like
those are like crazy videos you see
McDonald's worker who got her arm broken because she told someone they had to wear a mask.
Oh really? I didn't see that. Like, I've seen like Costco videos and stuff like that.
I saw the Costco video where the grown woman threw a temper tantrum and like sat down on the floor and was like, I'm not wearing a mask, and it's like,
well that's America.
I think that's a purely American thing where it's like full-blown adults throwing like toddler temper tantrums. That, and then the whole like getting mad at people for wearing a mask.
I haven't seen that as much.
Here?
I feel like people have done a good job of sort of like policing like the mask type of thing. I mean, like whether they say it or not, like, you know, Molly and I went to the zoo, and it's just like you see people without a mask, and it's almost just like you feel like everybody's like, oh,
Yeah.
shit, look at this person, like,
Yeah.
you know, brave, like.
Not to be like it's a whole region, but I think it's more like down in the South. I know, like I've talked to a couple people because I work with a lot of people I know are from the South at my job, and like their parents or like other people or like people they know are like, I'm not gonna wear a mask, and then like, but then we'll see someone wearing a mask and being like, oh, you don't believe in rights, or you're weak, or you're just a sheep and a follower. Like, you look at you and your dumb mask. Like,
Meanwhile, I mean, you hear people say they get in their car, they put on their seatbelt, they're stopping at a stop sign, they stop at a red light, like, you know, like.
You put on pants every day.
You put
like,
on
you're not running around naked.
Someone said it was like if you fart, you could still smell it or something like that.
Yeah.
And then I think the rest of the quote was like, yeah, but I would prefer someone farting with pants on than without them on. Like,
yeah. So it's definitely like that I never saw like people like yelling at other people for wearing a mask, or like being told to wear a mask and like getting like violent about it.
Yeah, it's crazy times, and
it is. It'll be interesting to see what happens in Ukraine, because it's more, I was reading about that, it's more opened up there. So when I get there,
yeah, what are their numbers like?
They're lower.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and when I get there, I have to quarantine until I get my COVID test, and then when that comes back negative, I'm allowed to go out.
Well, good luck.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing your story.
Yeah.
We're happy you're home.
Yes.
Wherever your home is. But yeah, it's crazy. I mean, like you said, you this was so unexpected that, you know, no one could ever predict that if they left their, you know, home, that it'd be the last time that, you know, they potentially saw all their stuff, or had a hard time getting it shipped and traveling excursions.
It's not anything I would suggest. It's not a situation I was like,
No.
Don't avoid it. Don't do it.
Yeah, I mean, I think, like I said, I think you're unique because you're fortunate that you've traveled a good amount, so you almost like have that thick skin to like, you know, bear that, you know, but like.
It was a lot of like, well, this is happening, so let's just deal with it.
Yeah. So yeah, I give you a lot of props and credit because, like I said, it's not easy. And probably got tough at times. And if you are stuck somewhere, and if you're still quarantining, try and stay positive. Find hobbies to do, you know, stay busy, cook, clean, do whatever you gotta do to keep your mind sane. Any last words you want to say, Doreen? Yeah,
I don't know, just be safe, wear a mask. It's the least you can do. It's not that bad, and they have like nice ones out there. Like, if I can do it in 115 degree heat for 2 hours trying to find a tour agency to give me an answer, anyone can do it. So.
Yeah, I'm surprised tour agencies are still a thing, because every time I drive past like a travel agency store,
they're real big abroad. A lot of places have tour. Yeah,
because here I feel like it's like someone at the desk with like the palm trees behind them and like a poster.
It's just so convenient to
like
get someone else to
Cancun.
do. I love it. I'm like, this is what I want to do. Plan it for me. It's so great. I love it.
Yeah, I don't know.
But yeah, just stay safe, stay positive, wash your hands.
And if you have questions for Doreen on, you know, any traveling things, she's done a lot, she's seen a lot, she's traveled a good amount, so ask her any questions.
Been to like 34 countries.
34 countries. Quarantined abroad, trapped abroad.
About to move abroad.
Move abroad. Perfect ending. Thanks, Doreen.
Thank you.
Chat, YouTube video, back up and running.
Yay!